All right, so get ready because we're about to check into Hilbert's Hotel.
Oh, this is a fun one.
It is. Our listeners love infinity.
Rightfully so. It's incredible.
It really is. And this thought experiment really kind of blows your mind, I think, when you first hear it. So imagine this, a hotel with infinite rooms,
Okay.
every single one booked,
Yeah.
full occupancy. Now a new guest walks in looking for a room, and in any other hotel, they'd be out of luck.
Of course. Yeah.
But not at Hilbert's.
This is Hilbert's Hotel.
There are infinite rooms.
So instead of turning them away, what happened?
Well, you've got to get creative, right? You can't just say no
You have to
vacancy.
say- So the manager makes a simple request. Every guest shifts one room over. Guest in room 1 moves to room 2, room 2 moves to 3, and so on all the way down.
Clever.
But now I'm thinking, what about the guest in the last room? You're already running into the problem. There is no last room.
Of course, because it's infinity.
Yes, exactly. Infinity's not like a regular hotel.
So one extra guest, no problem at Hilbert's.
Piece of cake.
But now I'm picturing a bus pulling up.
Uh-oh.
Not just one extra guest, but let's say 40 new guests on this bus. Can they squeeze them in? What do we do here?
So 40 guests all needing a room.
Yeah, is that possible even with infinite rooms?
40 guests, 400 guests. It honestly doesn't make much of a difference.
Really?
Hilbert's Hotel can handle any finite number of new guests.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. There's got to be a limit, right?
That's where infinity gets really interesting. Our everyday intuition about limits that doesn't really apply here. Let's say the manager tells each guest to move to the room number that's 40 higher than their current one. So everybody's bumping up 40 rooms. What happens?
A bunch of empty rooms.
Yeah. You've got 40 rooms free now at the beginning.
Okay, that makes sense, but I gotta ask. What if instead of one bus, we're talking about an infinite line of buses pulling up to this hotel,
Okay.
and each bus is packed?
Each one.
Yeah, with an infinite number of passengers.
Oh, wow.
And they all show up at the same time. That sounds like a recipe for disaster, even if it is Hilbert's Hotel.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This is where even our hotel manager might be like, oh gosh, what do I do? But don't worry, there's a way to accommodate this. And it has to do with what mathematicians call countable infinity.
Countable infinity. So we're saying that even though it's never ending, we can count it out.
Yeah, like if you had an infinite amount of time, you could theoretically count everything.
Okay, but we don't have an infinite amount of time. We've got all these guests waiting. How does this concept help us actually get these people into rooms?
So what the manager does is they pull out a very elegant solution involving prime numbers.
Prime numbers. I haven't thought about those in a while. So like 2, 3, 5, 7, that's what we're talking about.
Exactly. You remember your primes.
A little bit rusty, but yeah, I remember.
So we need to figure out how we're going to give every single guest a room, a unique address, if you will.
Yeah.
And prime numbers can do that.
How do we do that?
So let's say the first guest that walks in their original room number was room number 7.
Okay.
So we're going to take the prime number 2 in this case,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to raise it to the power of their original room number, which was 7.
Okay.
So 2 to the power of 7 is 128.
Got it.
That's their new room number.
So each guest gets a prime, and then we raise it to the power of whatever their original room number was.
Exactly.
And that's how we make sure that everybody has a room.
And we never run out of rooms because there's an infinite number of prime numbers.
But that's right. I forgot about that. That's one of the really cool things about them. So we're basically making this infinite hotel like a grid almost, like an infinite city.
Exactly. An infinite city with an address for every guest that could ever come.
But are there any situations where even this system breaks down? I mean, obviously this is a thought experiment, so I'm already kind of suspending my disbelief here, but it does make you wonder, is there any infinity that's just too big to handle, even for something like Hilbert's Hotel?
There actually is.
Really? I was not expecting that answer.
Yeah, there is a type of infinity that even Hilbert's Hotel, with its infinite rooms, just can't accommodate.
So if it's not an infinite number of infinite buses, what else is there? What could be bigger than that?
Well, think about all the numbers between 0 and 1.
Okay.
Like all the decimals, 0.1, 0.11, 0.111, and you can keep going forever adding more and more digits.
Right.
It seems like a very small part of the number line.
Yeah, just a sliver.
It's actually infinitely big.
So there's an infinite number of numbers just between 0 and 1.
Exactly. And that's what we call uncountable infinity, because we can't put them in a nice, neat order like we do with whole numbers.
So we can't use our prime number system because there's no way to give each one of these decimals between 0 and 1 a unique address.
You got it.
So even with an infinite number of rooms, there are some things that are just too big for even Hilbert's Hotel.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the limits of infinity and what's out there beyond what we can even imagine.
It really does. It kind of makes your brain hurt a little bit, but in a good way, I think.
Definitely the good way.
Yeah.
It's good to push the boundaries of how we think about things.
Well said. And that is Hilbert's Hotel in a nutshell. A thought experiment that's been blowing people's minds for over a century. It just goes to show that even something as seemingly impossible as a hotel with infinite rooms can teach us a lot about math and the nature of infinity itself.
Absolutely. And it really makes you wonder what other impossible things might be possible if we just change our perspective a little bit.
Exactly. There's a whole universe of fascinating ideas out there just waiting to be explored. So keep that curiosity alive, keep asking those big questions, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to discover the next mind-blowing paradox. And that's it for this deep dive into the infinite world of Hilbert's Hotel. We'll see you next time for another adventure in the realm of the strange and wonderful.